Hi, I'm Scott, and today we're going to talk about something that causes more online wars than any other topic. Yes, even more than what type of oil should you use. Today we're going to talk about darksiding, putting car tires on your motorcycle. Coming up next on Goldwing Docs. Motorcyclists have been putting car tires on their motorcycles for decades. They call it darksiding or going to the dark side. If you look on the online forums, there's all kinds of people that say, it's great, I love it, it's the best thing ever, it has so many benefits. And then you have all these other people that say, you're going to die. You can't do that because they're not meant for motorcycles. And in fact, the proponents actually in jest say, well, we're gonna crash and burn tomorrow, which means I'm gonna put a car tire on my motorcycle tomorrow. And the reason they say that is because of all the naysayers who say, you're gonna crash and burn if you do that. So they take that as a badge of pride. Yep, I'm gonna crash and burn tomorrow. And as always, you should make your own decision after talking to your lawyer, mechanic, insurance agent, and all those other people that you're not gonna consult before making your own decision. Putting car tires on a motorcycle just seems like a bad idea. They're not meant to do the same thing. They're shaped differently. And if you believe all the organizations, the experts, be tire manufacturers, tire organizations, motorcycle organizations, you can just find all kinds of quotes like these, and these, and these. All kinds of quotes from organizations that say, don't do this because you will crash and burn. And that's always been my opinion as well. For instance, here's an engineering drawing of a motorcycle on its rim. You can see how the tire bead sits against the rim. Now we'll look at a car tire mounted on a motorcycle rim. You can see it's definitely not the same. And if you look at these cross-section images here of a car tire versus a motorcycle tire mounted on the same rim, you can tell there's obvious differences. A lot of critics will say the car tire has a very flat surface, and whereas a motorcycle tire is curved so you go around a corner. Well, that's true. However, a lot of the car tires, when they're mounted on a motorcycle rim, they do curve at the edges. Not as much as a motorcycle tire. It's not a hemispherical curve, but there is definitely curve at the edge. Now, Goldwings and Harleys, the big tours are the most common bikes to Darkside. I've seen it done on everything from Suzuki Bergman scooters to ST1100s. But because we have big, heavy bikes that spend a lot of time going straight down the highway, and not only are they heavy, but our owners tend to overload them pretty much consistently, putting a car tire on there doesn't seem as much of a stretch as you would otherwise think. But I was solely against it based on the research I'd done. I've been against doing this for many, many years, and then I changed my mind. And what exactly made me change my mind? Well, I had quite a few people who I respected, who had decades of experience riding motorcycles, who had done this, who had darksided their Goldwings and talked about it as like it was the second coming. And so as I ran one of the largest Goldwing forums on the internet, I thought, well, I should probably at least give this a try, get the experience so that I can report back and say, here's my personal experience, take it for what it is. And that's what I've done. Now, if you go online, there are lots and lots of anti-darksiding trolls. And they all have very consistent messaging about why you shouldn't do this. The one thing they don't have is personal experience. You find that the people who are most vocal about not doing this are the same people who don't do it. I guess that makes sense, but it also means they have no personal experience in whether it works or not, or how well it works. The number one argument they come up with is, your insurance won't cover you in an accident. Well, that's been debunked. We've had many people on the forum over the years, including people who were in the insurance industry themselves, who said the insurance company could care less if you put a car tire on your bike. The only thing they care about is that the tire is DOT certified. And yes, if it's on a motorcycle and it's being sold for highway use, it's DOT certified. In all the research I did, there's never been a single documented case where insurance coverage was denied because a motorcycle was using a car tire. Then we come to the beads. Like I showed you in the images before, the bead surface is different between a car and a motorcycle tire. So the anti-darksiders will say, well, you can't do that because the tire will come off the bead, it'll slip and you'll crash and burn. I went through the TSA statistics to actually see if there was any documented instances of this happening. There are tire failures, not statistically relevant tire failures, but none of those tire failures were related to actually having a car tire on the motorcycle. So not a single documented instance of bead failure on a dark-sided car tire on a motorcycle. The one thing I did see in the TSA statistics, which was kind of eye-opening, is that 39% of fatal injuries on motorcycles were because of alcohol. The person was legally impaired. And 67% of fatal motorcycle accidents at night were because of alcohol. So maybe the trolls should stop talking about what kind of tires people are using on their motorcycles and instead talk about how much are you having to drink before you go ride. All right, there are a couple instances where state inspectors have failed motorcycles for having a car tire rather than the motorcycle tire. However, the federal DOT rules state that there is no such requirement that a motorcycle be using a motorcycle tire. So if your state inspector fails you because of a car tire and motorcycle, well, basically you can just go to a different inspector and get it done again. But if you want to fight it, you can, because ask them, show me in the regulations where it says it must be a motorcycle tire. They won't be able to because it's not there. And the biggest problem that all the experience of people running Darkside car tires on their motorcycles is that all the information is anecdotal. There is no statistical information on this because it's not an officially accepted practice. The NTSB or TSA doesn't track it. The insurance company doesn't track it. There are no statistics on this. Yes, there's been attempts at this where people have informally been logging the number of miles that they've logged on their car tires. There's a Goldwings site on the internet that actually does this, has everybody report the number of miles that they're actually getting on their car tires without accidents. And at last count, I think we're about 1.7 million miles without a single tire failure of any kind. As for actual tire failures, I'm not talking about bead failures, I'm talking about physical tire failures, damage, nails, screws, that sort of thing, delaminations. From what I've been able to discern from the research that I did, the incidence of tire failures on automotive tires is pretty much in line with motorcycle tires. It's almost exactly the same. So let's talk about the pros and cons about car tires versus motorcycle tires. First, the pros. You get way better grip. The one thing I noticed after I put a car tire on my motorcycle is that the grip was just incredible, especially in the wet. I could easily break my rear tire free with just torque on a motorcycle tire. I have never been able to break this tire free with using just torque, including in the wet. The increase in braking ability in the wet and in the dry is just incredible. The point where I can actually lock up my rear wheel is providing way more braking than I ever got out of my motorcycle tire. Part of that reason is because the contact patch is so much larger. As you can see in this image here, where we have a front tire and a rear car tire in the snow, the amount of tire actually on the ground is much bigger in the car tire. More contact patch, more grip. Another huge benefit is increased life of the tire, up to 50,000 miles. I'm lucky to get 7,000 or 8,000 miles out of a decent rear tire on this motorcycle. This tire now has about 8,000 miles on it, and it's barely broken in. People go upwards of 30, 40, 50,000 miles on a car tire. The biggest problem then is that you're not taking the rear wheel off often enough to actually service the final drive. Previously, I would service the final drive every time I had the rear wheel off, but now I actually have to service the final drive without changing the rear tire because the tire isn't wearing out. Of course, it's cheaper. The car tire compared to the equivalent motorcycle tire is about half the price. Half the price, 5 times the life. You can see where the economy comes. The tires run much cooler because there's a lot less flex and the tires are rated for a much higher load. They run cooler, so they last longer. That higher load rating is the reason for the coolness. Because the sidewalls don't flex as much, they can carry a lot more weight, which, yes, means you can put more weight on the motorcycle. The suspension might not be rated for it, but at least you're not going to blow out your tires because you have your... Okay, I'm getting myself into trouble here. I'm not going to talk about who you're carrying on the back of your bike and how much she may weigh, but you get what I'm talking about. The tire, because it can carry more load, runs cooler. And of course, if you're towing a trailer, it's a no-brainer because you've got way more stability, you've got a bigger contact patch, which means more lateral stability, which means the trailer can't push you as hard. So obviously, if you're pulling a trailer, you should be looking at a car tire for your Goldwing. Okay, we've talked about the pros, let's talk about some cons. One of the biggest problems is finding a tire that will fit. I have an Ostone taxi tire on this bike. You can't get them anymore. There are quite a few different tires that will fit, and some fit better than others. Some of them aren't quite the same diameter. Some of them have a little bit of a problem rubbing up inside the fender. You have to make some adjustments for. So finding the absolute perfect tire for your bike can be a bit of a challenge, but that's where forums like Goldwing Docs come in handy because we can tell you exactly which tire will fit and which one won't. Then finding a place that will actually mount the car tire. For whatever reason, a lot of motorcycle shops won't put car tires onto motorcycle rims. They see liability, lawyers getting into it again. Dealerships are right out. Good luck finding a dealership that will do it for you. Independent shops, maybe. My tires, I always mount by myself. I do it right here in the garage. You can do that as an option. Or you might be able to take it to a motorcycle shop and tell them, hey, I have a sidecar rig and that's why I have this car tire on here. Can you mount this for me, please? And a lot of them will be happy to do that for you. I already talked about rear end maintenance. You need to make sure that you actually maintain the final drive and the splines and the spider shafts to make sure that they're getting the required maintenance that you would normally be doing when you had the tire off to change it. Cornering. So yes, the profile of the tire is a little bit different and cornering feels a little bit different. Part of that is because of instability around the corners. Brand new tires are definitely worse at this. As the tire gets worn in a little bit, good couple hundred miles on it, you'll feel it goes away. Winter tires, some people run winter tires as car tires. They are definitely worse for this. You also need to make sure you have the right air pressure. These tires do take quite a bit higher air pressure than you would expect. To get proper ride on this, I actually have 47 PSI, which seems to be about the sweet spot for the Ostone taxi tire on the GL 1500. So it's not that it's any less stable, it just feels different. When you get up on a corner, it feels like almost like a little bit of a squirm in the back end, but it's still planted solid. If you lean hard into that corner, it's still gonna track through there. I still have no problem dragging my foot pegs on this bike with my car tire on here. It's stable, it's solid, it's not going anywhere. It takes a little bit of getting used to at the very beginning, but once you've gotten used to that, it's not an issue. The other thing that's different is uneven pavement. So if you have pavement that drops off because they've ground this away and you slowly move off to one side, a motorcycle tire, because it's more rounded, will kind of like gradually move down that and give you a little bump. Car tire is a little more sudden. As it gets to the edge, it kind of drops off and you get a little of a bump on the back. And the first time you feel it, it's kind of heart-stopping, but once you realize it's normal, then it's really not an issue. I do notice that the Ostone taxi tire tracks metal grates like on bridges a little bit stronger than some of the other tires. That's peculiar to this specific tire. It's not all car tires in general. Now there are some car tires that definitely work better on motorcycles than others. The ones that have a more rounded profile at the edges, like the Ostone taxi tire. There's a Kumho Run Flat for the GL 1800 that works really well. Again, check out the forums. We've got lots of people on there doing this who can tell you what tires work best. So I thought I'll take my bike out, mount a camera in the back so you can see exactly what it looks like when I'm going around the corners. Of course, I would recommend that you put the camera on the bike after you go off the curb so you don't smash it like I did here. In any case, I'm taking my bike out and I'm doing some first gentle corners and then I did some sharper corners. Now you can see how the tire doesn't actually smush the corner. It kind of lifts up on the corner, and that's where it gives you that weird feeling because the back of the bike kind of lifts up a little bit as it goes around up onto that corner. And once you get used to that sensation, it gives you no pause at all. And as you can see, even going around sharp corners where I'm definitely cranking the bike over and I'm close to actually dragging stuff on the ground, the tire is planted solidly. And I've done this at speed on highways, 70 miles an hour, cranked way over, and this tire is definitely solid. It's not going anywhere. You can see the same thing here. Here's a GL 1800 owner that has one of those Kumho run flats, and it's exactly the same deal. It's a little bit rounded on the edge. You can see when he goes around a corner here, it kind of lifts up. It doesn't smush that corner in. So it's solid, it's not squirming around, and it definitely has a significant contact patch, even in the corners, just as much as you would on a motorcycle tire. You have that same amount of contact patch on the car tire. It's only when you're straight up and down that the car tire gives you way more contact with the ground, so it gives you way more grip. So when it comes down to it, it's really just a personal choice. There are very vocal people out there who will tell you, don't do this, you will die, you're gonna crash and burn, but the facts just don't support that. People do this and have been doing it for decades with no problems whatsoever. So if it's something you're interested in doing, come on over to the Goldwing Docs website. We've got lots of people in the forum there who talk about this kind of thing. I'm gonna link to some of the Darkside discussions, including our Darkside reference thread, in the description below. If you like what you saw here today, you think it's useful information, please share the video, send it around to your friends. Click like, subscribe, click that little bell down below. It really helps us out, and it makes sure that you don't miss any of these great videos. Leave a comment with your own thoughts down below. We definitely read all the comments, and I'm expecting to get a lot for this video. And of course, check out the Goldwing Docs forum. We've got lots of friendly people there, lots of experts, and lots more information on darksiding your Goldwing. Thanks for watching.